Hey everyone, and welcome. We're about to dive into a really important question that, honestly, every data-driven company has to ask itself. How do you actually know you can trust your data? We're going to explore that whole journey, from just running simple checks to getting to a place where you have complete and total confidence. I mean, think about this quote for a second. Can you imagine it? Building a massive rocket, getting it all fueled up, and then just running one little system check and saying, yep, looks good to go. It sounds absolutely insane, right? The risk is just way too high. And that is the million-dollar question, because so many of us do exactly that with our data pipelines. We run a single test, maybe when we first build it, and then we just cross our fingers and hope for the best. But here's the thing. When your business decisions, your analytics, your AI models, when that's the rocket, this approach is just as dangerous. So let's give this a name. Let's call it the one-check rocket problem. It really gets to the heart of what's wrong with a lot of traditional data quality methods. It's this flawed assumption that once data is tested, it just stays correct forever. Now, here's what makes this so tricky. It's the fundamental difference between data and code. See, code's pretty static. It stays the same until a developer physically changes it. But data, oh man, data is alive. It's fluid. Schemas change, data volumes can spike or totally crater overnight, and timings can get all out of whack without any warning. So that one test that passed perfectly yesterday, it could fail spectacularly today for a million different reasons. Okay, so if one check at the launch pad isn't going to cut it, what's the answer? Well, the first part of that answer is we need to start monitoring the entire journey of our data, not just that one moment in time. And that's where data quality monitoring, or DQM, comes into play. You have to think of this less like a one-time test and more like a promise. It's like having a watchful guardian that's always on duty, keeping an eye on your data from the second it comes in, all the way to the moment it's used to make a critical business decision. So why is this so essential? Well, for one, like we said, data is just plain unpredictable. Two, your clean, neat little testing environment, it just can't copy the absolute chaos of real-world production data. It's not even close. And the stakes are so high. You've got analysts, compliance teams, executives, all depending on that data being spot on. And sometimes even one single unexpected null value can completely derail an analysis or set off all kinds of alarms. Now, the good news is, you don't have to do all this manually. The whole process can be automated. Modern DQM platforms let your teams set up these checks and rules without having to write a single line of code. You can then monitor all your key metrics, get alerts in real time the second something goes wrong, and then see the health of your data over time on these really clear interactive dashboards. But here's where the plot thickens. DQM is fantastic. It's amazing for catching the problems you know you should be looking for. But what about the problems you don't? What about the unknown unknowns? And this is the real limitation of a rules-only approach. Sure, you can set a rule to check for nulls, you can set a rule to make sure a number is between 1 and 100, but you can't possibly write a rule for a problem you haven't even imagined yet. And that blind spot, that's where some of the scariest data issues tend to hide. So to deal with that blind spot, we have to go a step further. We need to move beyond just monitoring for things we expect. We need a way to see the full picture, especially the parts we weren't even looking for. And that is what data observability is all about. This is the next level. Instead of just relying on rules that humans write, observability uses machine learning to basically learn the personality of your data. It figures out what's normal, and then when something weird happens, even if it doesn't technically break a rule, it gets flagged as an anomaly. This chart breaks down the difference perfectly. DQM on the left is all about answering the questions you already have. Are there nulls in this column? Observability on the right is about finding the issues you didn't even know to ask about. It flips the script from being reactive, always fixing what broke, to being proactive and catching problems before they can cause any real damage. So what kind of weird stuff are we talking about here? Things like, all of a sudden, the distribution of values in a column looks totally different, or a massive unexpected drop in how much data you're getting, or maybe subtle, tiny changes to your data schema that you'd never notice, or data that just starts showing up late. These are the silent killers of data pipelines that a simple rule-based system can easily miss. And the impact of making the shift is, well, it's not just some abstract idea, it is huge. According to Datagaps, one of their customers who implemented this kind of automation saw a massive change. They were able to cut the manual work they were doing on data quality by up to 95%. Just Think about that. That's a game changer. That frees up entire teams from constantly putting out fires so they can actually focus on building new and better things. So let's zoom out and pull this all together. When you look at the big picture, why does this shift from simple checks to full observability actually matter so much? At the end of the day, it's about completely changing how you operate. It's the difference between always being on the back foot, dealing with broken dashboards and angry business users who don't trust the numbers, versus proactively guaranteeing the reliability of the data your entire organization runs on. It's about foresight, it's about stability, and most of all, it's about trust. And I think this quote from the source material just nails it. DQM is how you enforce the rules you know are important. Observability is how you make sure you never just blindly assume everything is okay, just because no rules were broken. You absolutely need both. They work together. And this really drives home the point that the tools are just one piece of the puzzle. The real goal here is bigger. It's about building a culture where everyone feels responsible for data quality, and where data is seen as this incredibly valuable, trusted asset, not some constant headache. So I'll leave you with this one last thought to chew on. Is your data telling you the whole story, or are you only listening for the problems you already expect to hear? The answer to that question really could change everything. Thanks for tuning in.
For further questions, feel free to reach contact@datagaps.com. Scan the below QR code for free demo. Thank you.